Zinc Comics presents, live from Darshan Studios, Exposition with Brian Payne. Welcome to the show. I have a guest in the studio here at Darshan, our old friend Steve Peters, who's been on the program before and hopefully will be again. And we're going live to Steve Peters in Philadelphia. Hello, Steve. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Brian.
Okay. Now, Steve has a Kickstarter, and we're going to take a look at that. If I can figure this out, let's see here.
Yeah, so it's a Kickstarter for the latest Comicverse spin-off project.
Is this one a solo project? Is this your answer to Tales from the Comicverse?
I'm not sure what that means. Behind the counter, perhaps, which is the other
That's
stuff.
what I meant. That is what I meant. Sorry, I don't have any notes today. I'm flying by the seat of my pants. Let's see here. I'm having trouble. Just talk a little bit about your Kickstarter while I figure this out.
Yeah, well, the Comicverse is my regular series, and it's a sci-fi comedy about a comic book shop on a space station. And we did a spin-off series a few years ago that you were a part of, called Behind the Counter. And the idea behind that one was that Bianca, the writer of the Comicverse, wrote some stories for other artists to illustrate.
Yeah.
And so Parallel Comicverses is my spin-off comic where I illustrate stories by other writers.
I see. Well, let's take a look at you. I've got you on. I figured it out somehow. I don't know how it will look on camera because I was clicking so many things. I might have some weird video, but we got your Kickstarter on the screen right now, and I'm going to show your video, which I think is a pretty great commercial for Parallel Comicverses by Steve Peters.
Okay.
Okay, that brings us back. I have a big monitor, so it looked great on mine. I'm not sure how it's going to look on a laptop or an iPhone, but if nothing else, you got to hear that music, which is you. Talk a little bit about that project.
Yeah, well, that's sort of the next project.
Oh,
The music, you mean? Yeah.
yeah,
I'm a little distracted because there was no sound for the video.
on your end.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope it came out live because I heard it really good in my earphones. So I'm hoping it's captured for posterity. Because if not, go to
Go to the
Steve's
Kickstarter.
Kickstarter and listen to it yourself. And while you're there, kick in and add a little funds and choose a tier that fits your budget and get you something good coming from Steve's new store comic. Now, you say you're doing stories by other people. I know that one of those people is Dave Sim.
Correct.
Could you talk about how that came about?
Well, I commissioned him to basically write a Comicverse story for me, involving my autobiographical character Esteban, who you saw there in the video. Um, and he's like me, he's a comic book artist and into Cerebus among other things. And so I asked Dave to write a story about Cerebus's legacy in the 31st century, and what he thinks people will be saying about Cerebus at that time.
Okay, that sounds like an interesting premise, especially considering Dave is writing it. So I hope he's thinking that it will be remembered fondly, because I'm sure it will. Uh,
Well, I don't know about that.
okay, that's what I was kind of having my tongue in cheek, because he does not seem to think it will, but I'm an optimist in that regard. Another person I noticed that you,
Before we move on, I can show you a little teaser of the script if you want to see it.
sure, that would be great.
You have to, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah. Okay. I'm putting it on the screen now.
So it's called Cerberus Conquers the Universe because I have my own version of Cerebus, called Cerberus, the three-headed aardvark.
Okay. It's kind of a slow launch for Esteban.
Oops,
How,
sorry.
how do you say your last name?
Moisse. It's French.
Okay. Marseille, new issue of the Comic Verse. Super cool. Is that the way it came to you? He had
Yes.
it. He
Yes.
had it lettered.
So yeah, he lettered it that way himself. So it's actually going to be lettered by Dave as well.
But
I'll-
that's the Joe Kubert font that he used for Glamour Puss. Is that correct?
I would assume so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, well, that's really great. I don't want to read it through like we did my comic. We'll save that for after it's published. But it's nice to see uh, his script and the way it came to you. And it's interesting that it was already lettered for you as well. That's good.
Yeah. I don't know if he intended it that way for me to use the lettering that he did, but I certainly will.
Yeah, I would too. Because then it seems even more like a Dave comic.
Yeah.
And even if Cerebus is Cerberus and three-headed. But another person that I know had a story written by was Max Inc. Tell our viewers who Max Inc. is and about that story.
Max Zinc is a comic book artist and writer from Columbus, Ohio, that I've known for about 18 years now. And he does a comic called Blink, which is a slice of life kind of thing set in Columbus with all the settings are in the Columbus area. And what was the other part of the question? He's also a big Yes fan, like myself, and
myself as well. So that's something we all share.
So I asked him to write a little piece about my character appreciating Yes music.
And again, that's appreciating Yes music far in the future, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so that's where the cover image comes from, the story that he wrote for me. It was part of the imagery that he wrote for the story, and I liked it so much that I used it for the cover. And actually, I can show you that as well.
Sure. I'd like to see it. Blink is a great comic for everybody listening. Max Inc. Blink. There's some collections on Amazon if you're interested. Definitely check them out. I've got most of them, I believe, if not all of them. And is this the cover image here? So let's see.
Well, this is actually page 2 of the story.
Okay.
You can see it?
Yeah, and basically you're listening to all Yes music at once, correct? Because I'm seeing lyrics from different songs, correct?
Well, I guess that's the idea. Well, he actually just had like sound vibrations like coming out of the headphones, and it was my idea to have different lyrics coming out. Okay. And so he laid out the pages, designed the pages, and sketched them out for me. This one's not quite finished. I have a little more to do in the bottom panel, but that's page 2. Page 1 you can see in the Kickstarter.
Okay. So basically, he wrote you a script and added he did the thumbnails as well, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Cool. Double your pleasure. Now, I'm not sure, but it seemed to me that when I was watching the video that some of what's in this book is going to be a 24-hour comic. Some of the pages repurposed from a 24-hour comic you did. Am I correct in that or not?
Yeah. Well, there's the 24-page prologue, which began as a 24-hour comic. I didn't finish it, but I mean, it is the comic, and I think I made it to page 18 or so, and it was just too much to get done. I had the script already written out, all the words. Well, I can show that to you as well.
Okay. Let's add that to the stream. There we go. Parallel Comicverses.
Okay, so aside from page 1, each page has the script, and that was pre-written. So all I did was the illustrations during the 24-hour comic event.
And I think you were live streaming your 24-hour comic, because I remember watching some of this while you were doing it, or maybe you were just doing updates. But I remember especially the picture of Steve Howe playing guitar. I remember seeing you do that at the time in live time. So, and you're also using the Dave Sim patented format of the long skinny panel with text along the side, and even the same panel border, are you not?
Yeah. Well, sorry for the blurriness. I'm trying to find the Steve Howe.
There we go. That's okay. There we go. It's in sharp focus now, and as you see, that's quite an illustration. I remember seeing that and thinking, dang, the boy's good, because you really can get in there and do some nice cross-hatching. And as someone who's seen Steve Howe many times, that's a quite a accurate representation as well.
Well,
So
it's hard to believe I did this during a 24-hour comic event. I mean, this one drawing was all completely done during the event. It was the last few pages that I couldn't finish. But
yeah.
I guess this is one of the reasons why I couldn't finish.
Right. They're pretty detailed. I remember I've done two 24-hour comics, and both times by the end, you're just like, you're kind of almost in an altered state from being up
Yeah,
for so
for
long.
sure. Definitely.
And then you're like, my drawings became a little haphazard at the end. So it was kind of interesting, but I don't know that I got another one in me, but I think 24-hour comic day is coming up yet again. I think October 5th. Am I correct?
I think so. I'm pretty sure it's always in October anyway.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, 24-hour comic day is where cartoonists around the world gather together and try to create a 24-page comic in 24 hours. And this again is, I believe Scott McCloud came up with the concept, but a lot of great cartoonists have done their 24-hour comic. And I think, Steve, how many of them have you done?
7.
Yeah, I know you're there quite often. So how many pages is this book going to be?
The comics will be about 70 pages.
70 pages.
There's going to be back matter of about 30 pages, including that Dave Sim script that I showed you.
So we'll get to see the script in its form. How about those? How about those Max Ink thumbnails?
Yeah, they'll be in there too.
Super cool. Super cool. All the more reason for y'all to be kicking into Steve's Kickstarter. There'll be a link in the below this video so that you can go to the Kickstarter and pledge your support. I highly recommend it. Other than Max Ink and Dave Sim, who else do you have writing in this issue? Anybody?
Well, there's a Star Wars homage / parody that is written by Bianca, the Comicverse writer. I guess we kind of came up with the ideas together, and then she wrote the script, which is pretty much how we do everything.
Now, is this the one I drew 2 panels for, or was that one of the early ones?
Nope, that's the one.
Okay, so so those are 3 great stories right there, and then you got your 24-hour comic, so that's 4 tales, correct?
Yes. So the Star Wars one is called Space Jihad, and I've taken a lot of flack for using the word jihad.
Well, I hope nobody has issued a fatwa up on you.
Yeah, me too.
Knocking wood, and that's a joke. Okay, we're not calling for that.
Well, I don't think I mean, I would hope that Muslims don't take offense at using the word jihad. It's not like I'm showing an image of the Prophet Muhammad. Now, that's something that would be fatwa worthy.
I agree. And it's just a word. We could have just called it space hummus, but space star jihad or space jihad. Is it space jihad or star jihad?
Space jihad.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. And laugh. You got to laugh to keep from crying. So are those the only other writers in the book then, those 3?
Well, it's myself, which there isn't really any the regular Comicverse comic. There isn't any stories that I write by myself.
Right.
So the
it's
prologue,
a collaboration with Bianca.
Right. So the prologue is a chance to write something on my own for the Comicverse universe.
Well, that had to be fun, correct?
Yeah.
Right. And okay, as we mentioned earlier, Steve did the music earlier, and it's he does also has a project called Fright Watch, which he has CDs for sale. But he also does a Yes fanzine called and which I've contributed to. And
Every issue so far.
what issue are you on now? 4 or 5?
4.
4. Okay. And where's the best place to get those?
Through me or through the Kickstarter.
Again, another good reason to kick into that Kickstarter. Get those Yes fanzines. And you and I and apparently Max Inc. have always are big Yes fans. And I've never really talked to you about this, but when did you become a Yes fan? How did you get introduced to Yes and all that, if you can remember?
Around 1984, when 90125 came out, and they had the big hit with Owner of a Lonely Heart.
Okay.
And they were all over MTV. So I remember seeing Chris Squire in the Owner of a Lonely Heart video and saying, I like that guy. I don't know why, but I think he's cool.
He is cool. He is cool.
You know, not having any idea who he was. Yeah. But and then after that, I discovered the Steve Howe music, which I liked much more, and was a Yes head ever since.
Now, I know you've seen them lots of times. I want to compare notes. Do you know how many times you've seen Yes?
The last time I counted it was around 50, but it's probably close to 100 by now.
Dang, you got me beat by tenfold. I think I saw him 10 times. And again, I'm going to show my age here. The first time I saw him was Tales from Topographic Ocean tour, which I think I was in 6th grade at the time.
See, I think you have me beat, because that's way more impressive to see them at the height of their powers.
Well, I remember I went with my older brothers, but they had tickets with their friends, and I ended up buying my ticket later. So I was like sitting on main floor all by myself. And I think that was actually a good thing, because that show they had the Roger Dean stage show for the first time, that tour. And as a 6th grade kid watching that show all by myself among total strangers, I could focus entirely on the program and on the concert. And I think, that made me, like you say, a Yes head for life. And I think I saw him every tour after that up until 90125 or whatever it's called. You just muted your microphone there, Steve.
Oh, I'm aware. I just was shifting in my chair and it's squeaky. So
okay, I understand. I didn't want you to have done it accidentally.
Oh, no.
These things do happen. But yeah, I think I quit seeing them live right when you started. So it was like tag team, tag you're it. But right. Yeah, I think I saw them 10 times, but you definitely got me outdone there. But I remember after that concert, I went up to the record store up the street and bought Tales from Topographic Oceans, which is a double record set. And in each, I got 2 copies of the same record. I had Ritual on both of them. So I took it back and got another one. And it had Ritual in both ones. So I took it back again and we opened it in the store and I finally got the whole thing. Wow. And I don't know about you, but those first 2 sides are crucial to the enjoyment of Tales from Topographic Ocean. So anyway, I wanted to get that on record because I know that you and I share a love of Yes and prog music, progressive rock in general. And I know that your comic company, Awakening Comics, Is it Awakening or Awaken?
Awakening.
Yeah, I thought so. Is inspired by the Yes song "Awaken," and I know that Max Inc.'s original comic company was called Onward,
Right.
from the Yes song as well.
Right.
I went a different route with Darshan Studios, and Darshan is a song by David Sylvan and Robert Fripp from an album of theirs. So we all our comic companies are inspired by prog rock. So I think people of our age, if you don't got a little prog in your soul, you miss something. But anyway, back to comics. What have you been reading lately? Anything good? Any
Oh
comics?
gosh.
Hate to put you on the spot.
Yeah, it's hard to
You
think.
think about it, and I'll tell you what I've been reading.
Sure.
I bought Lone Wolf and Cub, a bunch of these. They're like miniature copies of the book. I mean, they're like as big as my palm. I didn't know that when I bought them. I bought them on eBay, and I expected them to be much larger. So they're kind of straining my ancient eyes to read through, but that's one thing I've been reading. But I've also been I bought a big bunch of the Comics Journal, a magazine I never really followed much while it was in print. I think they've just started printing it again. It was online for a while, but these go back to 1989. So, and a lot of the reviews and stuff, it's kind of like that. To paraphrase the thing, talking about comics is kind of like dancing about anime or something. But the interviews are so great, just reading interview after interview by comic creators has been really inspiring. Right now, I'm currently reading one from Bill Watterson, the creator of Calvin and Hobbes comic strip. And it's not like he's a talkative guy and has done a ton of interviews in his life. So, any interview with Bill Watterson is a treat. So I'm really enjoying that almost as much as reading comics. So anyway, anything good you've been reading? Have you thought of anything?
Yeah, you reminded me. I'm trying to watch the time because we're running out. But
Yes.
yeah, I got the entire Lone Wolf and Cub series last year. Collected the same one, the small manga size.
Yeah.
Collected them book by book and read them out of order because I was buying them out of order. So this year I decided I'm going to read the whole thing from book 1 to book 28 in order. So I just did that, and it's just amazing. It's just such a monumental work, and like there's so much of it. And the quality is consistent from the first book to the 28th book. And then I just found out about this recently. It's the Flash Gordon movie adaptation.
Oh, wow. Who does the art on that?
The art is by Al Williamson.
Oh,
so he's the perfect guy to do it.
Yeah.
He's Alex Raymond's disciple, basically.
Right. If you can't get Alex, that's about your second best choice. So,
and I also found a paperback book of his Flash Gordon strips. I can't remember what it's called. Something Mongo, I guess.
Okay.
That was fascinating to see as well.
Yeah, I think I knew of him before I ever knew of Al Williamson. I think I knew of Al Williamson before I ever knew of Alex Raymond, and I had to work my way backwards, like much like I did with a lot of music. You hear something and then you start going backwards to see where it came from, and I've done that with a lot of comics as well. So once again, the show is pretty much over at this point, but I enjoyed talking with you, Steve, and I suggest everyone check out the link below and kick into Steve's Kickstarter. And this has been another episode of Zinc Comic Exposition. And until next time, thank Zinc.